The Magna Carta was the first official recognition that the written and unwritten laws that other nobles had to follow also applied to the British monarchy, and that's a big deal, because it limited the power and authority of a previously untouchable group. So King John, who signed the Magna Carta, had to acknowledge how his small habit of excessive taxation and illegal imprisonment had actually violated a lot of people's rights. But keep in mind, the Magna Carta was originally intended to just be an agreement between the king and other British nobility, so it basically protected people who were already rich and powerful. In fact, it doesn't really mention the rights of individuals or common folk at all. But the Magna Carta was still important, because it made progress in humbling the monarchy. It also promised to safeguard the liberties of rich people and their stuff. So later, the US government extended that concept by protecting the civil liberties of people more generally, like having the right to freedom of thought, expression, and action, and not having the government infringe on those things. Civil liberties also refer to things like due process, or a fair trial by an unbiased judge and jury. This ideal is mirrored in the 5th and 6th Amendments of the US Constitution, which ensure that all people have the right to due process and a speedy trial with a jury of their peers. Well, there's a little asterisk on that statement. Because yes, that's what it says in the 5th and 6th Amendments, but who that applies to has changed over time. For instance, the fugitive slave laws of 1793 and 1850 denied enslaved people the right to a fair trial, due process, and even their ability to prove whether or not they were free in court. So again, it's important to know the context of who has the power to shape and write about government policies at different times. Back in England, the Magna Carta also brought the concept of habeas corpus into British law, which translates from its original Latin to mean you have the body. Habeas corpus essentially promises rights to those who've been imprisoned or otherwise detained, and says that a person can't be held unlawfully or indefinitely. And it's something we brought over to the US too. Essentially, the Magna Carta is an early example of people with less power banding together to check those above them in the hierarchy. And given the colonists' less than great experiences with King George III, it's understandable that it so heavily inspired the US's own foundational governing documents.